back on this beautiful May 4th. This is episode 5 of the newly rebranded Trailer Trash Talk. As always, I'm your host, Lil Stank, and here with me
is your co-host, Leather Hat Guy.
Now, right off the bat, we've got a big show today. A lot of news happening since the last time we've talked to you. Some of the things off the top is going to be Elon going crazy. Hope Wars you told me about earlier. Rest in peace to Don Shula, coaching legend we lost today. Horrible thing. I think. Sorry guys. I guess this is how much pre-planning we do. And I guess the other big thing is what's going on in North Korea. That's the other big thing that's been happening lately. But before we jump into any of that, we'll get into the story of the times, which is, of course, the COVID pandemic. We now are projected to reach deaths of over 100,000. I don't know if you saw that. It's quite a far stretch from, was it a month ago when we were told that, it might not even get to 60,000. I think now we're at 67,981.
And I hate to say it, but I'm pretty sure we can just expect those numbers to go up from here. A lot of states reopening, some full stuff, some limited. Different places doing different things, most of them too much too soon.
Kind of makes you wonder though, if we're having, I think yesterday or the day before was our highest 24-hour death toll to date.
Say, we talked about, Dallas had their giant spike in new cases the day after they started reopening the place.
Yeah. And I think they had another record the day after, maybe. Another story I saw, a headline, was because of the COVID relief bills that have been passed through Congress, we have, in just the first quarter of this year, matched the spending or matched the additions to the national debt that we accrued throughout the entire year last year through one quarter. So that's I'm not a money guy.
I was gonna say, I bet that's really concerning to like rich people or people who are affected by that kind of stuff.
Again, I'm not an accountant, not a financial person, but that doesn't seem to be good to me.
Right. Doesn't sound good. Probably won't affect us. Once again, we're too low to get hit by any falling logs, but.
Also saw 373 employees from one meatpacking plant in Missouri. They have discovered to be asymptomatic carriers.
There have been headlines, reports of current and future meat shortages because of a lot of plants are having issues with keeping clean, keeping staff in there.
I guess. Not coincidentally, I saw another headline today that said more people are turning to hunting to get their own meat. Might be the way to go. What's in season to hunt right now, Justin?
In Louisiana, off the top of my head, turkeys.
Turkeys. There's a good spot to go hunt some turkeys at.
Around here? Now, I only know one place to go get in the woods.
Alright, well that's our hunting and outdoor info from Leather Hat Guy for today. 373 employees from one meatpacking plant are positive and are asymptomatic carriers. The USS Roosevelt, I believe that was the ship that the captain got kicked out of. They have sailors after a month of quarantine that are still exhibiting symptoms of the COVID, which is a little surprising. South Beach, which had announced they were reopening 5 days ago, announced today that they're closing after 8,880 verbal warnings had been issued to people hanging out on the beach with no face mask. They had in their first 2 days 1,500. On Saturday they had 2,829. Sunday 2,432. Now, do you know the wave of people we're about to have that are bitching about the beaches being closed down, and this is government overreach, and this is... It's your fault! You did this! Put on a damn mask!
I heard a... Alright, I'm gonna... Infringement of your freedoms. I'm gonna go with something, a really basic example. I learned it when I was a freshman in college about your rights. Your right to swing your arm ends when you hit my face. Your right to do whatever you want ends when you are putting other people at risk of harm or danger.
So if I can try and pick through what you're saying, because again, I'm no law person. I know certain laws, and this isn't one of them. So you're saying that perhaps since you don't want to wear a mask, it is superseded by the fact that there is a deadly, highly contagious virus about that you could transfer to me and put my life in jeopardy. Is that what you're saying? That therefore it's not just an issue of you, it's an issue of any and every one you may come around.
Yes, they're not telling these people you have to wear a mask. They're saying you have to wear a mask around other people. I mean, as you say, we're not smart men, but this seems pretty simple to me.
The other thing I kind of find ironic is most people that are concerned with government overreach are worried about face tracking technologies, things like that being installed in street lights and traffic lights and shit. It's going to be hard to do much face tracking if you're all walking around with masks covering your face, so they can't both be methods, means to government overreach and government oppression, right? I mean,
I found, speaking of masks, I found that an interesting little thing. We talked about the last time I went out in public, wore my mask. It is a really weird feeling to walk into a store in a mask and have them nod to you. Just felt a little awkward at first until I saw other people also masked up, and I'm like, oh, good. Again, then we saw a bunch of people without masks, and I'm like, oh, hell.
Saw their virus lawsuits starting to emerge now in the courts. Different companies, I guess, being sued by employees, which...
Good. I hope they take a big chunk out of Bezos and stop his run to trillionaire status.
Yeah, it's something I'm kind of torn about, because there does have to be some protection for the companies here, because they're no more at fault for the global pandemic than the, person that obtained it. Neither one of them intentionally caused this. Now, there is certainly an argument that, well, the employee may have wanted to stay at home while the company, who is concerned with the bottom line, did not want to shut down, lose production. So therefore you can't really let them be impervious to liability.
Well, no, and that's the thing. And many of these government advisory things that I've seen, that you've shown me from some of your work, they offer guidelines, things these companies are supposed to do while in operation during this. I think a lot of these lawsuits are going to be because these companies did not provide proper equipment, sanitization, etc.
If that's the case, then absolutely,
But like you said, if they can't show that the companies deliberately violated or caused some issue, shit happens sometimes.
Look, I'm not big on suing companies. I'm not big on the workers saying, "Oh, we're treated poorly." Most of the time, I'm going to say, "Well, get another job." This is, of course, an unprecedented situation in our country, in our lives especially. I can't help but have to side with the employees a little bit, especially if it's in a case where they weren't being provided the protective equipment, which, despite what, corporate entities might put out, that definitely is not the case everywhere.
It's like the commercials. Every single one of those, we're in this together. This is what we're doing during the COVID. Every single one of those commercials backfires to all of us who see them. That is money you wasted that you could have used paying your workers hazard pay, getting them more hand Purell, rubber gloves, etc. I haven't been impressed by any of these commercials. If anything, they have the opposite effect.
I mean, I went in, I won't say the name of the place, but a local market. There wasn't a damn person in there that had on a mask or anything. Kinda shocked me. And the same day I drove by Academy and saw the line of people sprawling out of it, so decided to kind of park and people watch for a second. Dude, nobody had on a mask. You have people bringing their small children to go stand in line, and then you had people, employees coming out of the store. None of the employees had on masks. It makes you wonder, are they not being supplied masks, or are they choosing not to wear them? Because that's something I'm not going to have any sympathy for. If you were provided with a mask, chose not to wear it, at that point, liability can't be put on the company. Your dumbass didn't do the preventative measure that could have protected you. Now, of course, it's still
so
not 100%.
So you're saying at that point, you're Mike Pence.
Again, we like to avoid politics since no one has offered us a slice of the pie to go either side. So I'm going to have a strong no comment on that one. The only other story I saw from the COVID thing was a Colorado man who had helped with planning these armed anti-stay-at-home order protests was raided and arrested by the FBI after several pipe bombs and bomb-making materials were found in his residence.
Wow.
I just want you to know, we're not the white trash that's associated with that type of white trash.
That's not our thing.
We are strong Second Amendment believers. I am a pretty strict libertarian. I don't think government, no matter which party they're affiliated with, should be reaching into our lives that much. However, this situation I do find to be a little unique. And a lot of the things the government is forcing us to do seems to me to be common sense if we have a deadly virus ravaging the nation. That's the thing that I think pisses me off the most about people protesting this is, man, it's common sense. Like, you don't want to be around hundreds of people a day. You don't want to be exposed to the shit coming out of their mouths. Or it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Now I think you had a story about another wave of it that...
Yeah, there have been some reports, talks coming out about what they're calling the second wave, which basically just means probably going to see a resurgence in COVID cases with, just with the weather. We're supposed to see later in the year more stuff coming up, also with these reopenings. Even with all precautions taken, there's no way to avoid things happening. And the thing to worry about, from some of the research I did, if you look at the Spanish flu back in the early 1900s, like everybody keeps bringing up, comparing this to, the second wave of infections cases back then was exponentially higher than the first. So if this is as bad as things have gone on our first go-round, I would be very uncomfortable to see how things go when cases start going up again.
Now, my question, I guess, would be, we're still very much in the first wave of this thing. Projections have that by some point in June, we're going to be looking at 3,000 deaths a day, potentially.
Yes.
So with our first model in the Spanish flu of 1918, 1919, was the first wave extinguished when the second one hit, or is it like, this looks like it's going to be, if there's a potential second or different type of COVID coming in, it looks like this first one's still going to be...
Probably, because from what I could tell with the reading I did with the first wave, it wasn't even so much that the first wave went away so much as it was just overwhelmed by the second wave. Like when you're dealing with, what were those numbers they were telling me? In the first wave, if you're looking at 3 to 5 million cases, and you're starting to get a handle on that, and then, what did they say afterwards? Somewhere between 30 or 50 million cases followed. So at that point, you don't even bother to keep track of, what's that, 2-3% in the beginning. So if this is, yeah. In this case, so if this follows that same sort of track path, we won't even be talking about, oh, I want a haircut, oh, I'm tired of being home for 3 weeks. We're going to see some of those pictures of, I think a lot of those pictures we see of places as ghost towns are going to be a lot more common and a lot bigger.
Well,
never mind Times Square being deserted. I hate to say it, like Brooklyn deserted.
Let's hope that's not the case. But shit, that sounds pretty awful. Let's get off the COVID for a while. Then we probably talked enough about that today.
Well, that's enough of that.
Let's see. What about Elon Musk? What's the deal with that dude? The first I saw is the other day he puts out a tweet. He's like reciting the national anthem and then says like give people back their freedom, and then says he's getting rid of all of his possessions. And then I saw a headline today that he's got multiple houses that he's just listed on the market to sell. Look, my first impression when I first heard of this dude, learned who he was, he to me seems like a batshit Bond villain. Like, he seems like he was literally, everything from his name, his appearance, his quirkiness, he seems like the perfect James Bond supervillain. It's kind of always what I thought. Then you see he's wanting to fucking go to space and all this other. I truly think he thought he was a Bond supervillain. Maybe he still does.
He does seem to have a. Does he have a cat? If he has a cat, he's a knockoff of Dr. Evil.
Dude,
Someone let us know if Elon has a cat.
Do you know that Dr. Evil is a knockoff of the Bond villain Ernesto Blofeld from the original James Bond movies starring Sean Connery?
Yeah, but no one wants to say that name. That's ridiculous.
Alright, just making sure. So, yeah, what's your take on that? What's going on with him?
Alright. I don't know yet. I haven't seen anything.
You haven't been in touch with him?
Nah, hasn't been returning my calls. Might be a little salty about some things I said. We won't go there. I think Elon might be ending up in financial trouble again, and this is a brilliant plan to liquidate assets to protect them. and also possibly cop an insanity defense.
One of the things he tweeted was that he thought the prices of his Tesla stock were too high, and I believe they took a dive after that. Like I said, it's really fascinating. I would love to know. We've seen from the Joe Rogan experience, free plug there, Joe, don't be afraid to return the favor. He's not afraid to indulge in some party favors. I think him and Joe smoked weed on one of the podcasts.
Didn't they just legalize shrooms out west?
It almost makes you wonder, from things I've read and heard about using hallucinogens, it makes you wonder if that might be what's going on. He got a really big, really good bag of shrooms.
Had a religious experience, like...
Could have been some of that peyote stuff.
Mm-hmm. Got to get rid of his worldly possessions, like...
We'll know if in a couple of days we see a new thread of tweets come from, like, bro, my bad, I don't know what the fuck was going on there, I think somebody hacked me. Normally you're going to say that pretty quick, and I kind of expected that to come out, but it hasn't.
Elon Musk, the perfect example of why intelligence and wisdom are considered two completely separate things.
Alright, well, let's take a quick break, and when we get back with you, we're going to learn about Pope Wars and apparently some news from the Russian Federation about their doctors via Leather Hat Guy. We'll be right back. Alright, welcome back. Up next, I believe, we have a topic that you brought up with me just a little while ago that I had no knowledge about whatsoever. I'm not part of this world, nothing against them, but I believe this was some Catholic news concerning the, what is it called, papacy, papal concerns?
Something like that.
I'm missing it all together. I don't know. So something to do with the Pope or former Pope, I believe.
Yeah. So basically, something I've found or was following a little while back popped up again while I was doing some research. Thought we'd bring this up. Old Pope, new Pope feud. For those of you who don't know, our current Pope is Pope Francis. He took over after our previous Pope, Pope Benedict, retired due to health concerns. He is an old man. The job of Pope was hard on him, so yes.
How long was, what's Benedict? That's the, like, Eastern European-y one, is that correct? How long was he in power, in office, whatever you call? Because it seems like he was a very short-lived papal.
Let's see here.
Span. I mean, because who was the one we had? Was it John Paul II was the Pope from like the time we were born up until a few years ago, or I don't know, it's been more than a few now, but and that's when Benedict took over, and it seems like he was there for like 6 months, and then we got this kind of progressive, liberal, I think, South American guy.
Yes, basically. Here's 7 years, from 2005 to 2013, Benedict was Pope. That's a pretty short run, considering most popes, die as the Pope after extended careers as the Pope.
Just real quick, before one of our many viewers does any corrections, we like to get it ourselves. We do love to be corrected, but we try and get it ourselves. If he's in there from 2005 to 13, that could be 8 up to 9 years as well.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. Depending on when he started and stopped. So yeah, but he was only in there for 9 years.
Less than a decade.
So, again, I don't know much about it. Most of my knowledge of the Catholic religion, Catholic sect,
Catholic faith.
The Catholic
doctrine.
faith, thank you, comes from being forced to go to church when I'd stay the night at a friend's house when we were younger. He was not an altar boy. I was never exposed. I had no idea about any of that. I just remember it was a lot of, in the presence of everyone in the church, a lot of like kneeling and standing and sitting was required. It was drove me crazy. Had the misfortune, again, no offense, of attending a Catholic wedding or two, and those are not because I don't like the faith, just they're god awful. I mean, it takes so long.
It's
Give me a Baptist wedding any day of the week. Same thing with a funeral. I mean,
it's like, forgive me, my grandmother's going to be really upset about this. God rest her. She was a good Catholic. You aren't kidding. Catholic weddings, because a traditional Catholic wedding means they have an hour-long mass. They have church before the wedding. And then they have the wedding, which can also be upwards of an hour, depending on what priest you have doing it.
Isn't it the same thing with the funeral? Isn't it like a sermon or something beforehand? Alright, so anyway, we're not trying to bash the Catholic faith here. What's going on with the Pope Wars?
Alright, so what's been an ongoing issue is going to be, well, basically when Benedict retired, he was supposed to go to a monastery, lead a peaceful life of reflection, get closer to God, and give up all the Pope stuff. But right after he retired, he apparently decided now he wasn't too tired to do all the Pope stuff, even though they had a new Pope in there. And these guys disagree a lot as to, what the rules for Catholics should be, which obviously causes a lot of strain amongst the people of Catholic faith when you're not sure which boss you need to be listening to.
So he's basically backseat Pope in there, and
yeah, that seems to be exactly what's going on, because so far every time the new guy comes up with some new announcement, a more progressive stance for the Catholic Church to take, the retired Pope, who as far as I know doesn't have any authority anymore but still seems to keep acting like he does, says, no, that's not what we're doing. Which I don't think he can say that anymore once he's retired. Like I said, I quit going to Mass a long time ago, but yeah, no, once you retire, you go, you pray, you be quiet. Stop offering opinions. If you were going to do that, you shouldn't have quit the job. And not practicing Catholic or anything like that. Generally speaking, I kind of like the new Pope. Don't agree with everything he comes out with, but I feel like he's trying to move in a new direction, which, well, things haven't been working great for the last 800 years. The way the Catholics have been doing things seem to have been on a little bit of a downward slope. At least the new guy is trying new stuff to turn it around.
sounds like what we have there, maybe a case of papal regret.
Could be. Could be.
So, what's going on with the Russian doctors you were telling me about?
Let's see. There seems to be a interesting trend among people in the medical field in Russia. They're just falling out of windows left and right.
What exactly does that mean?
Let's see here. According to the Moscow Times, give us a second. Technological issues. Get this loading. Give us a second, y'all. We'll get there.
We will be upgrading the studio at some point, but for now we're working with what we have.
Here we go. From the Moscow Times. 3 Russian healthcare workers have taken mysterious plunges from their places of work in the last 2 weeks after criticizing work conditions and hospital administrators during the ongoing coronavirus pandemic in Russia. 2 of them have died from their injuries and 1 remains hospitalized. Let's see. The survivor, Alexander Shulapov, is a paramedic, tested positive for COVID-19, and suffered a skull fracture from falling from the second floor window of the hospital he was in on Saturday.
I mean, that's nothing to laugh about, honestly. I've actually read a couple of stories in the U.S. media about doctors taking their own lives from this, so it really should put into perspective, you know, people that are bitching about not wanting to go outside. It's obviously so bad, the reality of it in some places, that you have these healthcare professionals that are, you know, eating a bullet instead of watching their patients continue to die, and it's kind of crazy to think about that. But yeah, so let's get back into North Korea. We had another little incident just, what, a day or 2 days after Kim Jong-un finally resurfaced. Again, glad to hear you're doing better. Reach out to us if you're interested in doing maybe a phone interview because of the COVID right now. But a day or 2 after he resurfaced, we had a bit of a issue at the demilitarized zone in between North and South Korea.
Yes, shots fired. North and South Korea exchanged gunfire at the demilitarized zone. I forget, was there a defector, or was that something else I'm remembering?
Well, yeah, I think the one you're talking about from a few years ago, there was a guy defecting from north to south. I think they shot him a handful of times, but he lived, if I believe.
Yeah, he did. He was doing interviews from the hospital where he was recovering after all that went down. Yeah, there was that poor dude who had all sorts of parasites and stuff when they checked him out.
Yeah, but so do we have any information as to what caused this little flare-up?
None that I'm aware of. I haven't seen anything right now. I don't know if that could either mean they don't know why they're mad, or they're not telling us right now. Hell, this could be as simple as, like, 2 guys looked crossways at each other across the fence, and it escalated. This doesn't always have to be a huge government whatever. I mean, you could just have 2 assholes.
Yeah, you're right, but it just seems strange, I guess, since we've had this relative time of, from what we've seen over here at least, peaceful time since...
See, and that's why I lean towards the, couple of asshole theory, because after that whole problem with the North Korean defector a few years ago, there was a big stink about them shooting across the line after all that. So both Koreas have been doing a pretty good job of behaving themselves since then. So if we haven't heard about a major issue causing this, I'm going to attribute this to people are stupid until they come out with more information.
Yeah, it could just be, like you said, a couple assholes. Somebody wants to exert dominance. I mean, we've all seen that happen. So our North Korean fact of the day, because Leatherhead guy told me the other day that he wanted proof of some of this fantastic claims. I just thought about. It's Alright, so before we move on, want to give our North Korean fact of the day. The other day, Leatherhead God disputed my claims of some of the things I'd heard about Kim Jong-un. So I've been researching to try and find some answers. Well, I found here that in 2012, Kim Jong-un found a unicorn lair inside of the country. Now, I have not been able to find any pictures, but we all know that the internet does not exist within North Korea, so my reckoning is that it's hard to get those things out. And they probably don't want to share the unicorns, honestly.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, fuck all y'all. I got some unicorns now. But yeah, I mean, so there you go. It's on the internet, 2012 unicorn lair.
But still no news on Kim's golf game.
Well, I do know it says here that Kim Jong-il once had a game of golf where he shot a world record score of 34 that included 11 holes in one. So he was at least, and that stuff, you know, could be genetically passed through, so we'll see, I guess. Another interesting story I found, a New York City biker gang leader of a biker gang called the Pagans was shot and killed by a group of masked men this past weekend. And they announced today they believe it may have been a calculated or a targeted attack, which would be my guess anytime you have a group of masked men show up, unload on a dude, and then walk away, you know.
For any of our viewers not familiar, the Pagans would be what you would call an outlaw motorcycle gang. These are the guys you see in Sons of Anarchy, except real.
I didn't know that shit was still as prevalent, I guess, as it is, but it says they're into, what was it, like drugs, gambling, and strip clubs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The usual stuff your organized crime runs with.
So, interested to see if there's any follow-up with that, if we have any, you know, revenge killings, anything exciting like that.
Who do they hate? Disciples? Something? I don't know, it's been a long time since I watched AMC.
So coming up, we're about to have our entertainment talk special. Today, since it is the May the 4th Be With You Day with all the Star Wars stuff, Leatherhat Guy's going to have a special entertainment talk. It's going to be mostly focused on things like that. This is going to be our special nerd talk. Before we get to that, though, we also are going to start a Today in History segment. What do we have for today?
All right. Once again, on a more sorrowful note in today's episode, 50 years ago today, the Kent State Massacre occurred, wherein the National Guard fired upon students protesting the Vietnam War in Kent State College.
We're going to take a stand right now. We weren't around then, but we do not agree with National Guardsmen firing on unarmed protesters. We're going to take that stand for all to hear. I think we can agree on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so what you got for us in the nerd talk?
Alright, diving right into nerd talk. Happy May the 4th be with you, everybody. Unofficial Star Wars Day today, so we're going to jump in a little bit right off top. Got some new stuff coming out on Disney Plus. Mandalorian has a second season approved.
That's the Bounty Hunter series on
Yes.
the Star Wars series?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen any of that.
I still haven't either. I've seen some clips. I've heard good stuff. We'll probably need to check that out, put it on our list. Have another Star Wars series going into the works right now. I believe director... I apologize in advance for butchering this poor guy's name. Taika Waititi. will be in charge of that.
Is this something from somebody we would have known anything from, or? And you said this is a series or this is a movie?
Well, this is where the line gets a little blurry, because initially Taika Waititi was supposed to be working on a new Star Wars series, but from what I've seen and read, he's being switched over to running one of the new movies, and they've put in Stank, you told me this woman's name 2 or 3 times today.
I think you were talking about Miss Leslie Hadeland or something like that.
Yes, they've tapped her to do that, and I think they've got some other people coming in to pick up the slack.
Now, I did read real quick, there was a lot of controversy about the Leslie Hadeland woman. She apparently is a former personal assistant to Harvey Weinstein. She has talked a lot about wanting to put identity politics into her Star Wars series. I believe she is an openly gay woman, which there's nothing wrong with that.
I thought
it's 2020, there's nothing wrong with that.
Star Wars already has identity politics. Am I a Sith? Am I a Jedi? I mean...
Well, they want to get a little more divisive than that. Like I said, she has a personal agenda because of her personal, I don't know how the correct way is, her personal beliefs and or
preconceived notions.
No, not notions, pre-configured biological settings, depending on which side of this you're going to follow. I want to make sure we don't piss anybody off till we get money. She's going to be inputting her views on the identity politics, the social politics and pressures that they like to promote on that side, I guess. And this woman, too, I mean, I know this isn't, we're not the type of people that judge people like this, but this is a shovel-faced woman right here. Like, it just kind of looks like a bulldog. And then you find out that she was Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant. So the first thing my mind went to, knowing what I know about her, is if she was grilling these actresses before she let them through to Harvey, or if she was catching them on the way out the door or something. But we're not here to guess or judge about it. Again, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever.
Alright, moving on to something a little more positive. On Disney Plus, they have released the newest season of Star Wars Clone Wars, the animated series. Stank and I are big fans of this show. Still working our way through the beginning so that we can watch the newest season. Please, no spoilers yet, guys. This has been a fantastic show. Probably the best Star Wars related thing we've seen of the newer stuff they've come out with maybe the exception of Rogue One, my personal favorite of the new Star Wars movies. The stories are good. You become interested in the characters. They did a much better job with an animated series and drawing you in and making you care about the characters than they did with any of the new movies. That being said, it being that day, if you're trying to figure out what you want to take a look at, I personally recommend either going way back, check out the original Star Wars movies. I'm talking real old school, guys. None of that digital remake stuff. Go watch the originals. If you get done with that, jump into the Clone Wars. Everything else is really negotiable.
As much as I hate to say it, I've told you this before, the most recent time I watched the original Star Wars trilogy, I did not find the same level of enjoyment that I did as a child. It seems, I don't know if it's my visual part being ruined by modern day, you know, technology and people focusing more on special effects than plot, so I can't even appreciate looking at Star Wars, or if it's just the hokiness that I find in it now. Now, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy it at heart, but Luke comes across to me now as just a whiny bitch sometimes. Like, it disappoints me. Han Solo and Chewie are definitely the best characters to me in the original. Darth Vader, you know, he's cool, but again, like we discussed before, Darth Vader was kind of ruined by the
Prequels.
whiny, bitchy guy they had playing Anakin in the prequels. So now going through and seeing Vader again, kind of not as scary when you realize the angsty little boy inside of him.
Although that does make the character of Luke way more believable when it's like, oh, he's just as whiny as his dad was.
That is a fair point. That is a fair point.
I don't think they did that on purpose. I rarely think. Anytime they did something that made sense in these movies, I assume it was on accident.
Yeah, you kind of got it. Yeah, I might agree with you. Alright, so what else we got? Is that all the nerd talk we have for this evening? You got something left?
Well, I think that's all we're going to touch on for Star Wars at this time. Now we're going to take a sidestep to another Space Odyssey, which I'm really stoked about. Dune reboot, guys. It's here. I know a lot of people have been talking about it. A lot of trailers, movie posters, stuff's been popping up. Biggest thing I want to say is the story is fantastic.
Hey, get it! We'll be right back, guys. Welcome back. Sorry about that. Now, as you were telling us about something called Dune, I believe. It was another space-dwelling odyssey?
Yes, originally a novel by Frank Herbert. It is set in the future.
Is it in a galaxy far, far away?
You know, they never brought that up. But in this particular story, we follow Paul Atreides, a deposed royalty who has to survive on the desert planet of Arrakis and eventually avenge his father and reclaim his rightful royal seat. Now that that's out of the way, this story is fantastic. There are knife fights, there are space monsters, there are lasers. It has everything. This movie was this book was made into a movie once already in the 80s. It suffered a lot from everything that movies in the 80s suffered from, as well as just the technology at the time was not there to do justice to the imagery of this book. Now, I've seen some screenshots, some production work that they've been doing on the internet. These visuals are going to be epic. Still waiting to see. I really hope they follow the storyline as close to the book as they can. Nothing ruins it more for me when they just take a hard left turn from the original plot, but from all the reports I've heard, this is going to be well worth the watch when it comes out.
I'm looking at it now. It looks like has a couple of big names in it. Has Jason Momoa.
Do they say who he's playing?
Jason Momoa is playing Duncan Idaho. You have Josh Brolin playing Gurney Halleck. Javier Bardem playing Stilgar. Those are really the only ones I know. Let me see who this guy is. His name looks familiar.
Yeah, that's...
yeah. The wrestler. Okay, Dave Bautista playing
Beast Rabin.
So it's got some people in it. I'll be excited to see. And when is that coming out for us?
I believe that's supposed to drop in 2021.
Okay. Alright. Good deal. I don't know what you have left on the Nerd Talk, but I did want to throw out, we touched on in the last episode that hasn't aired yet, the new Assassin's Creed Valhalla video game coming out, and there was some confusion as far as what platforms it was going to be released on. It does look like it will be available on PS4 and Xbox One as well. But that is not going to be released until December 31st of 20. So, still got a little while to go on that one.
Well, I still haven't saved up to play Doom or Animal Crossing, so I guess I'll just have to try and hold out till then.
Is that all you got to cover on your Nerd Talk, or what?
Let's see. That is about it currently for our Nerd Talk. Let's see. Since we're doing this, Wizards of the Coast, once again, shout out. Send me some stuff.
There you go, Wizards of the Coast. You've heard. Alright, well, we're going to get right into our last segment then. This is Trailer Trash Talk, Sports Talk for the evening of May 4th. Big news today is, of course, the passing of Don Shula, age 90. Let's tip our caps to him. He's a legendary coach, the winningest coach in NFL history. He's won 347 games. He was the coach of the only undefeated season in the NFL, having coached the 1972 Dolphins to a 17-0 record, including a victory over the Redskins in Super Bowl, what's VII, is that 7?
Mm-hmm.
Can we say Redskins? Was that ever?
Yeah, no, that's still copyright, whatever, we're good.
We are, I'd like to let you know, big supporters of Native American awareness. They're there, and we should be aware of them. Utmost respect, alright? But, yeah, he beat the Redskins in Super Bowl 7. Also won the following year against Minnesota, and he reached the Super Bowl 3 other times with the Dolphins and lost to Dallas, Washington again, and San Francisco. Shula was, he played before he coached. He was drafted in the 9th round of the 1951 draft. He was picked number 110 overall, so they had more rounds, but far less teams. He played his college ball at John Carroll University in Cleveland. He played 2 years for Cleveland, 4 years for the Baltimore Colts, a year for the Redskins. He had 21 interceptions through his career. Once he retired, he became the youngest coach ever for the Baltimore Colts at 33 years old. He led the Colts to Super Bowl 3 and lost to Joe Namath and the Jets. And only 2 of his 26 Miami seasons did his team finish with a win-loss of under 500. That's pretty damn impressive. So, thoughts and prayers to the Shula family. But you know what? I mean, Don led a pretty good life. And again, give me 90, I'll be pretty happy with that.
Yep.
We also have, over the weekend, Andy Dalton signed with the Dallas Cowboys. That's really interesting since you have the Cowboys are in a contract stalemate with Dak Prescott. They assigned him the franchise tag. He has yet to sign it. So as of now, Dalton would probably slot in as your starter. I think he's on a $3 million contract with incentives that could make it reach 7. I'm almost of the thought they should cut ties with Dak at this point. I think Dalton is every bit as good a quarterback. You're looking at paying him like $32, $33 million less than what the franchise tag would be on Dak for this year. And it almost looks like that's what they did, was they provided themselves insurance if Dak doesn't sign. But Peter King today on the Pat McAfee show said that he believes it's more likely the desire to have a veteran quarterback, especially this season, because there's a possibility somebody could get sick. If you had your starting quarterback get sick, man, he was going to miss 2 to 3 games. I mean, it'd be a great time to have a seasoned veteran that's able to step in. And then the NFL also released, or they're going to be releasing their schedule soon. They had announced that everything as of now is going to go on as planned, but it does seem they have some contingency plans prepared, some of which they haven't been officially released, but there's been some murmurs that perhaps that could be 1 to 2 preseason games if there is a preseason. They might not report till the beginning or middle of August. If that's the case, they're talking about potentially taking away bye weeks, taking away the Pro Bowl, the bye week before the Super Bowl. So there's a potential that your team could play 20 straight weeks if they make it to the Super Bowl and don't have a bye in the playoffs, which is brutal.
That's not going to be good. That's I am in favor of getting rid of the Pro Bowl game.
That's definitely going to be interesting to see how that happens. I hope they're able to do it, but I mean, they have to be more concerned with safety than anything. And it's hard to see how it's really going to be worth it if you can't pack people in the stands, you know?
Yeah. So they've already talked about, we talked earlier, they're pulling the international games now. All of those are going to be played in the U.S.
Yeah, which I'm told I kind of feel like they have to do right now.
Right. It makes sense, but no, as you say, that's going to be interesting. The NBA talked about doing it if they have. Well, the NFL may actually get their viewership back up on televised games if they just don't let people in the stands.
Yeah, you might be right about that.
I mean, I'm still not going to go back to watching games, but all the people who went out, they're definitely going to tune in.
It's definitely fine. And, depending on what level of normal we get back to, I mean, people might still be dying for new media to consume.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we do have, starting in just about 3 hours and 20 minutes, ESPN is going to begin playing the KBO Baseball League over here, televising live games. Tonight we have the NC Dinos versus the Samsung Lions at midnight. And then that's our time. And then going forward, it looks like they're going to be airing games on ESPN2 at 4:30 a.m. on Tuesday through Friday, 3 a.m. on Saturday, and midnights on Sundays.
All right.
So,
go Lions.
Yeah, it's not much, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try and find a way to live stream that tonight. But, alright, well, that's all I got. You got anything else?
Let's see. Shout out to the Mountain from Game of Thrones. I'm sorry, man. I cannot pronounce your real name, and I don't want to take the chance of messing that up. You seem like a nice guy, but you could also turn me into a pretzel. So I'm not going to mess that up. For those of you who don't know, this guy just set a new lifting record of over half a ton.
I think he deadlifted 1,104 pounds, if I'm recalling correctly.
So yeah, that is impressive as all get out. Congratulations. Let's see here. Baseball, powerlifting. Unless we know who won the cherry pit spitting contest last weekend, I think that's about it.
I actually missed it. I was going to try and see if I could find any information on those things that happened on the Ocho, but I kind of wet the bed on that one. Well, we'll look into it for next time. We'll be getting back to you in a day or two. We'll be posting another episode of Trailer Trash Talk. And until then, again, everybody be safe, stay home. But again, we will see you again. Same trailer.
Same trash.
I feel like we could have ended that a little bit better. But we'll work on it. We'll work on it.